I was given a message, love them where they're at. And that shifted really everything because I share that in my own head every day because we do tend to be judgmental people and we tend to like look at people like why that's why I love personality profiling because it's like I want to understand why people do the things they do, but first you need to understand why you do the things you do. But if you take all that out of the equation and just say, I'm just going to love them where they're at. I can't change them. It's not my place to judge them. It just shifted the energy for me. And so that's probably my biggest lesson.
Life. It can be hard. Am I right? But it can also be so dang beautiful. This is the podcast where we go there, where we talk about those hard things that have happened in our lives, but also the great things too, where we reflect on the lessons that we have learned along the way. Because that's why we're here. It's to learn, it's to grow as spirits, and it's to share what we are learning with each other. So no one has to feel alone on their journey. I'm Tiffany Carson, and this is Hard Beautiful Journey. Let me ask you something before we even begin. Do you know why you're here? Not what you do, not what's on your calendar, but why you're here. My guest today wasn't looking for that answer. It came and found her, and it nearly cost her everything to receive it. Dr. Holly Porter spent 70 days in the hospital after COVID took her to the very edge. Respiratory failure, 2 intubations, and sepsis. Somewhere in the middle of all of that, she crossed over. She had a life review. And what she was shown changed everything. What love actually is, what purpose actually asks of us, and this is the part that gets me, what she was still meant to build. Because here's the thing about Holly, she's a builder. Nearly a dozen companies, 17 best-selling books, and when she came back from the other side, she didn't come back to rest. She came back with assignments, and she said yes. Her book, Near Death Shift, carries what dying taught her about living. So, as we step in, here's what I want you to hold on to. If you already knew, like really knew, why you're here, what would you stop doing today? And what would you finally start? Okay, friends, let's meet Holly. Hello, Holly. How are you doing?
Hi, Tiffany. Gosh, that was making me emotional just having you reading that.
True, though, right? It's all true.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you don't realize what you've come out from, when how blessed we
Exactly.
really are.
You have founded nearly a dozen companies over your life. Can you take us back to before you got sick? And what were you building then? And what did you believe your life was about before all of that hard stuff?
Yeah. I feel like, wow, I was in my 50s before I really began my
Mm-hmm.
life. I mean, isn't that strange? And before that, 15 years before that, well, maybe 10 before that, I moved to a different city after running for political office and was devastated. Like, I just felt like it was that, oh, everybody says they want something one way, but then they make choices that's another way. And it's just banging your head against the wall. And so the difference from the push to the pull, it was like, feel like I was always dragging people along to get them to make change, to do things better. And then when I stepped back and said, wow, that's not my journey, and moved away, just not that far, but I moved away enough to where the energy just changed. And then it was like, I felt like then my life started over. So I feel like maybe I have 9 lives. I don't know. I just felt like you get this like major restart. And I started working in my dad's office when I was 12 years old. So like I've always been an entrepreneur. I graduated from high school a year early, not because I was so smart, because I wanted out of school. I mean, so much education that I wanted to do, not
Mm-hmm.
what they told me
Mm-hmm.
to do, if that makes sense. And I always feel like I'm an avid learner and I love change. But I usually had three. or 4 companies going at a time. So I've got several that have been 20 years. So it's not like I just jumped ship and started something else. I a lot of times would just add something to my plate. I've had a couple exits from companies where we've actually been able to sell them, and it so I always was like that, like, nothing much changed that way. I'm just a lot slower than I used to be because the long COVID hit after the COVID and my health, go walking in on no drugs into the hospital and walking out on a dozen, and I'm holistic,
Mm.
so that was challenging. I did work to get off those quickly, but that's just it's like it changes you, but you're still who you are. I feel like personalities are still within you
Right.
from the day you're born. Like, you can you can get skills, you can add things, but I feel like you're
Mhm.
who you
So
are.
then COVID did hit, and you spent 70 days in the
Yeah.
hospital and your near death experience. I know you talk at length about the actual experience in your channels, so everybody can go and check that out. But for my listener that's sitting at home right now, drinking their coffee and in the middle of something really hard, what is the one thing that you were shown in your near death experience about life, legacy, love, and what you want to
Yeah.
carry now in your life?
Yeah. Well, there's so many things to that. Wow, that's a loaded question, really, actually. Okay. The message I received, and there's a whole big story around that. And yes, you can go on YouTube, put my name in, and you'll see lots of near death podcasts that I've been on because it's a long story. But the gist of it all was I was given a message, love them where they're at. And that shifted really everything because I share that in my own head every day because we do tend to be judgmental people, and we tend to like look at people like, why? That's why I love personality profiling, because it's like I want to understand why people do the things they do, but first you need to understand why you do the things you do. But if you take all that out of the equation and just say, I'm just gonna love them where they're at. I can't change them. It's not my place to judge them. It just shifted the energy for me, and so that's probably my biggest lesson. The second biggest lesson happened after, when I went through 2 years. I call it my 2 years of hell. It was almost 2 years of time after my experience, and, like, every day I prayed I would have died. I took every bad day that you could have, times it by 100, and that's, like, how heavy everything felt every day for me. And I never wanna relive that again, but the lesson out of it, looking back now, I know I had to go through those lessons. I know I had to see what I had to see, learn what I had to learn, do what I had to do for the philanthropy I'm creating and the things and the purpose for the future more so. And doesn't really make it okay because it wasn't okay. But the lesson was, I wish I would have asked, because if you're sitting there right now listening to this and you're in something or you're having a challenge, what can I learn from this experience to move through it quicker? Because 2 years was I'm an action taker, so 2
Mm.
years was too long. So I think that would be, like, the 2 things: love them where they're at, and what can I do in this situation to learn what I need to learn to move through it faster?
I'm kind of, I don't even know how to get, I'm going to try not to cry this episode. Damn it. So before my brother
I'll take
died,
you.
he was in the height of his addiction, and it was very difficult. And I was also in a really dark time in my life. I was on a beach in South Carolina or North Carolina at a mom's retreat because I was having a really hard time. And I'm walking on this beach and I'm talking to God and I'm like, what the hell? Like, why did I get this life, right? Where it's so hard, where everything is really
Mm,
hard. And then I was shown my brother. I saw his face. And I thought, okay,
yeah.
if he can go through this hard thing, then I can go through my hard thing. And then the next thing that I heard was love him through it. I heard those words, love him through it. So when you say that that's what you were shown is just love the person through what they're going, that's actually blowing my mind that that's what I heard too. But not in a near-death experience. And that is what shifted my brother and I's relationship before he passed away, was that
Wow.
compassion and that shift to not being angry at him and not being judgmental of him, but just loving him through what he
Yeah.
was going through. And that allowed me to
Yeah.
completely change the direction of our relationship. And he felt it. Like it was immediate. And I know he could feel
Yeah.
it. So I love that that was part of your
Yeah.
lesson and your journey as well. It's so, so beautiful.
Well, we've all heard when we change, the situation changes because the energy,
It's
it's just
energy.
energy. Everything's energy. And it shifts that. And when we shift, then that's you shifted. And so that's why it shifted how he felt it and how he was. And oh, that's such a I'm so glad that you were able to get that
Mm-hmm.
relationship back before he passed
Mm-hmm.
because so many don't. And then they live in that regrettable stage. And, it's okay. First of all, we have to love
Mm-hmm.
ourselves where we're at. I mean, I think that is the biggest issue with most people and why people become addicted
Mm-hmm.
to things anyway. They don't love themselves because if you love yourself, you wouldn't do
Exactly.
that to yourself.
So you were given assignments. You didn't just come back with the lessons. You came back with instructions. Do you want to talk about some of those
Yeah.
instructions that you were given and what you did with them?
Yeah, I would love to. And they're just like, oh my gosh, there's probably a half a day we could talk about stuff. I took a ride home with a good friend of mine this week and we had a 3-hour ride. Same ride I'm taking when I get done with the show. Anyway, and it was I told her a story. We've been friends for 25 years and I told her a story that it's interesting how things in your life will those memories. And so a lot of this is like it's like a pattern. It's like this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and then there's this setback, and then that happens, and we all have that. That's just part of weaving everything into our story. For me, to be given specific things, what I've had to deal with is like you get an answer. So think about it. And everyone's prayed. I'm sure they're during their life listening. Everyone's prayed for something. You get an answer. You might not like it though. Sometimes we get an answer we just don't want to like, or we refuse it, repel it because we're like, that wasn't it when it is it. And then we have to go through the hard lesson of why it really was it, but you made a different choice and then you got all the consequences. We've all been there. So I've had a lot of these things that have just happened over. It's not been quite 5 years now and they say it takes up to 10 years to unravel a near death experience. Kind of excites me. Normally, I got to know everything right now, but there was so much. I don't think I mentally, definitely couldn't have physically or emotionally handled everything that was happening because I needed it kind of in baby steps. Um, Peace was the biggest thing that I never felt my whole life until I would say until 2 years ago. 2 years ago. So after I came out of the 2 years of hell, it was after that to where I was like, "Oh, this is what peace feels like." I have a word that's a metal word right here above me that I look at every
Mm-hmm.
day, and it says peace. And it's just that reminder that you can have that every day in your life. But if you don't know what you don't know and you don't know that feeling, it's hard to understand how to grasp that. And so for me, I was given two specific things in the near death, particularly I was told to start a nonprofit. It was called Adventure Bucket Wish, and I was not given the mission. And so I had to figure that out. I was given I had pitched a company that I just started. It was a new company, but it wasn't incorporated or anything. It was called Retreat R&R. And I pitched the day I found out I had COVID. So sick, so sick. I did it anyway, because I had like there was 9 people showing up on the Zoom. I think I got up at 4:30 in the morning, and my makeup's dripping off as fast as I'm putting it on because I'm sick. And I pitched them, and they had a billionaire backer. So like this company was going to be international. I was so excited for it. Well, I was told in the near death because it's top of mind. I had just pitched them. I knew they wanted it. And then I go into this coma, and then I have all these experiences. And I was told not to partner with them. That was not the highest and best thing to do for the company. And I didn't get the whys or what fors. It was just like, here's your instruction. Don't do it. It's better to keep it yourself. So it was interesting how over 2-3 year period of time, I found out why. Like it's kind of cool when you do find out. Sometimes you do, sometimes you
Yep.
don't. You just have to trust, right? So I immediately came back. I got long COVID right after that. I started getting all these health diagnoses. I have a lung disease. I got rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia and fatigue and all the things with that. So I know God was holding my hand through all of that, probably just doing it for me, through me. And within 4 months, I had both. I had the nonprofit 501(c)(3). I got that in 25 days. I had the other company incorporated. Here we are, ready to go. And so I listened. And then that was right. As soon as that was done, within days, the 2 years of hell started. It was like, it almost like the light switch. Okay, you did this, you got this far. Now I'm going to
Yeah.
make it even harder, you know? And I still worked through that, all of that. I was still, you know, I guess. So for me, it's just, I'm excited to see the future, to look back at even now and see, oh, that was why. Oh, that's why I made, and just say, gosh, I hope I make the right choices. I mean, the whole book I did, it was in the works for a couple years. And last year I knew I was supposed to. For me, I always had
Mhm.
that gift of knowing. And people that have that will know what I'm saying, because if some people ask you, how do you know that? Because they question you, because they don't know that, I guess. I don't know. And it's just
I'm
like, I
so
don't know. I
glad
just
that you
know.
said that. I'm
And
sorry to
so
interrupt
that's
you. I'm so glad
definitely
that you said because that's me.
no.
So I am a person with knowings, I call them. Like it's just I don't know how to explain it to people. I just like,
Well, I don't feel
no.
like I'm psychic. It's not about
No,
a
it's just in your
psychic
body.
ability.
It's in
It's
your
just,
yeah, it's
it's a
in your
gift.
energy and you just feel something. You're like, mm, mhm,
It's intuition. I mean, for sure. And
mhm,
everybody has intuition,
mhm,
whether they want to admit it or not. You always have
mhm,
had a
mhm,
nudge for something,
mhm,
so one way or another. People have it, and you can grow that skill. Like, it's kind of cool that you actually can, just like any, you learn to play the piano and you can be
mhm,
good or you can be okay. It's just you can learn how to intensify those things. I lost my singing voice. I'm a singer. And during COVID, they tell me there's no damage, but I guess with two intubations and a
yeah.
pipe down your throat, I guess you get some damage, but they said there is none, but I can't sing. I can sing the blues. I guess I should switch my genres, right? Well, anyway, I started doing research on what it would take, because I've had a couple speech therapists, which I call voice lessons, tell me that you can get that back. And I started researching. Does it take me like an hour and a half a day of work to do that? I was just like,
Yeah.
my
Is it
mind
something that
said,
brought you joy? Is that
yeah,
why you wanna go back to it or
well, brought me joy, and it makes me sad. I mean, especially
mhm,
religious hymns and stuff. Those are the worst level of, I don't even know what you call it, because
mhm,
I did everything by ear, which I also lost a lot of my hearing. So it's like, you got all these strikes going.
mhm,
What's more important? And an hour and a half a day is
mhm.
a long time. I'm just like, hey, at least I can talk. I can sing. It
Yeah.
just sounds awful now.
So, was one of the assignments the retreat company that you have now started? Because I just gotta also interject here. I have had host retreats in my knowing for a very long time, so I know
Mm.
it's coming. It's just, I got other things to do.
So get it on the
Yeah.
calendar and make it happen, even if it's in 2 years, because a goal that is
Mhm.
identified is gonna happen. So work from the date and work backwards. But, um, so I've done retreats and events, gosh, I say 25 years, but it's been way longer than that. But I okay, so the company was actually a software company, Retreat R&R. It was like, picture what Airbnb does, but it was for retreat
Mm.
venues and hosts. It's still, there's not really anything out there like what I say it's in development, but it's really sunsetted right now. So what happened was last year, nudged, okay, the book's coming out this year. You need to get it done. The name even changed. Near death shift wasn't the name. The whole lesson is on the shift acronym, which is surrender, hope, intuition, faith, and transformation. And that all came like, it's a spiritual and it's a personal development book. So half of it's the story and the other half is all the shift acronym and how I did that and how I compare it to people in history, and now how you can help,
Mhm.
get this shift for yourself. So I felt like it had to be a book where people would learn, not just from my story, but really get in there and help
Mhm.
with their personal development. And so I knew that had to happen. So it was weird, while I was writing the book, there was so much changing and shifting for me just doing the story and then realizing less and then realizing shift was given to me as the knowing because it was that acronym. And then there were the 8 chapters that are the personal development, for instance, are a program that I started when I was doing events before COVID, and they were live events. And it was a program that was called 8 Means, MEANS, 8 Means to Close the Gap to Prosperity. And prosperity for me wasn't about money. It was
Mhm.
about everything. It can be, but you can be prosperous in anything. And so those 8 things, one day I'm like, had that knowing, those are my last 8 chapters. So each of those 8 things, I had to shift one just a little bit just
Mhm.
to make it work better. But I was like, and then I knew it had to come out on the day I got out of the hospital was 11/11. I knew that's part of my story. My logo came back when I on the retreat company. Those are all, if you go do the near death stories, I tell a lot of these, how all these miracles happened and how all everything kind of came about. But like for instance, the logo comes back from the branding and it's a tree, which is part of my story, and it has 11 leaves and 11 roots,
Mhm.
which is 1111, and I was released from the hospital, and my birthday is 1/1,
Yep.
and that's just a really, really significant number to so many people. And so I knew the book had to be there. So then I stopped everything. All I was working on, I am a real estate broker too. So like everything kind of just stopped so I could get the book done. While I was doing the book, this answers your question actually. Long way around it, but um I I was just in a really spiritual place and I got the idea of an association for the retreat industry. And I'm like, not looking for another company. I'd had 11 at the time. I was like, shiny objects. Like I'm focused on this, I'm getting this book done. But I took a little break and I went down the rabbit hole enough to start doing a little research to realize that the industry of retreat ecosystem is 2 to 3 million. And in that ecosystem of vendors, service providers, retreat leaders, everyone in that ecosystem, 2 to 3 million. And I'm like, there's not an association. So now I'm interested because I'm an early adapter. I love creating things. And I'm like, hmm. So then I knew, okay, we're on to something. And I got to finish this book. So I kind of made a deal with God, get my deadline. Don't let me miss it. I'll get the book done and I will give 110% after. So we launched the book on 11/11 last year. And then in December, I incorporated International Retreat Association, first of its kind. There's never been professional standards. There's never been values that people have set, that like, here we are, this group, this body of people that can support. And then we opened membership in May. And so that was where it's interesting because no, I wasn't, all that. I was told not to partner. And all those relationships I built for the last 4.5 years with Retreat R&R, it's still needed. I still want to get that software done. I just really needed a few
Yeah.
million to finish it and didn't have
Yep.
that in my back pocket. So I was like, do I fundraise? Anyway, so many decisions. So yes, I feel like, oh, doing this and staying in my lane right now and focusing on just this. It'll open up all those doors. I'll probably end up with a tech partner for that. There's going to be so many things that come out of it, but the relationships and knowing what I knew from Retreat R&R are helping so much more with this because I
Mm.
did all that research. I interviewed, gosh, probably 150
Mm.
retreat
Mhm.
leaders, to
Mhm.
get all the data, and now it's like, oh, okay, well, come on over. Now I got
Yeah,
somewhere
yeah.
else for you to hang.
So let's go back to your book and the shift framework. So that is surrender,
Okay,
hope, intuition, faith, and transformation, right? Did I get it right? Yeah.
it is.
Okay.
Good job.
So
Yeah, yeah,
which one of those
yeah.
5 has been the hardest one for you to actually live?
Mm. Interesting. At different times, different ones. Number one is surrender. And I think when you're a go, 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 and you don't want, I think God put me in a coma in the hospital so I would sit there and listen to my next steps. I was probably off track. I think I get relapses a little bit from the long COVID for the same reason. Is sit back and listen to the next thing because you're a little off track. Let me get you some health issues so you can listen. And so I think it was just surrender, to really, we all have to surrender at some point. Nobody does it alone. Ask any successful person. If they didn't have help,
Mhm.
they're lying because it takes a tribe of some sort, whether it's your family or your friends or your colleagues or your employees, everyone that gets success doesn't do it alone. So I would say that was just realizing that. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. Like just realizing, oh, I got to surrender. I got to just say, okay, it's in your hands and, or it's in their hands or it's in our hands, whatever that is, but surrender.
That's an interesting one too. And if you are willing to go there about your daughter, I had to surrender wanting my brother and like fixing his addiction and making it go away. But I couldn't do that. I had to surrender that that was his journey, his life. And again, just go back to love him
Yep.
through it. Did you experience the same kind of surrender
Yeah.
with your daughter?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think the time's coming that her and I are going to have a long sit down conversation because I feel like I've just been band-aiding, the situation. She's doing great right now. 3 children later,
Mm,
she only has one of them. Um, and I've had custody of the oldest one. He's now 16 for 3 times, until he's just got so many issues that now, I mean, it's a very sad
mhm,
situation, he's
mhm,
pretty much in a
mm,
detention program now. And it's hard to watch, and it's hard to watch your daughter's, self-sabotage that way. And hers started from being in a car wreck and then getting on pain meds. So hers was
mm,
always medication,
mm,
not street drugs, which it's drugs, either way. So the first baby was a drug baby. He's never been married. The second baby was, let's see, about 10 years under him, and I had custody of him twice. That was my kind of during my 2 years of hell, some stuff we were going through. The situation ended up being with another family member, and they let a brother of mine end up adopting him, which has just about
mm,
tore me in half. I mean,
mm,
it's still not okay, but when that's part of the surrender. When you've done everything possibly that I mean, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, that you could do to solve a problem, sometimes you just have to say, okay, I don't like this ending, but it's
mhm,
destroying me. And life's got to go on. And so you kind of get that way with an addict. So my daughter ended up the challenge with her, she would create, I have all this mindset work I've done, and it's just like if I could just get it out of my brain and put it in hers, I could save her. Can't save anyone. They have to save themselves. And I see how good she's doing now, and I'm so proud of her. And she's got a 2.5-year-old now. And I was so angry that she was having another kid because
mhm,
I was just like, you're
mhm,
killing me here. And being a single mom, and she's been on disability probably, I mean, she's had so many health problems. So I feel like she almost created health problems to have surgery
mhm,
to get the
mhm,
medication. It's just this pattern. And so she'll always be an addict. And I mean, she's almost died so many times. No overdoses or anything like that, but just I mean, she had 10 just in the last couple years when the baby, his first year of life, she had 10 surgeries
wow.
in 12
Holy
months.
smokes.
10. So, I mean, I'm talking major stuff, like her femur she broke in a car wreck. She wrecked 8 cars in 2 years, totaled 8 cars in 2 years, and the kids were
Mm,
mostly with her. I mean, so we've had so many miracles that they're even alive. I mean, I just always would say I remember about 3 years ago, she was in the hospital, and I just remember telling my husband, "If she lives longer than 5 years, I'm gonna be shocked," just
mhm,
because of all the health
mhm,
issues. I
mhm,
mean, she's got 2 knee replacements. I mean, the weirdest one time she had 8 surgeries, weird surgeries in a very short period of time, like, the carpal tunnel in your elbow, and she had her eyelids drained because she was having migraines, and she's got 2 shunts, and I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I can't
mhm,
even tell you the whole thing, but it was like, I feel like mentally we can create those things for ourselves to
mhm,
support
mhm, mhm.
our habits.
Yep, I completely understand what you're talking about there. Just even with my brother and just other addicts that I know and love, right? And so what did loving her through that again, like it's not always easy, is it?
No. The hardest time for me was the tough love to where it was a 3rd time removal from DCFS. Um, and I was not they always want to put the families back together, and sometimes that's not the best thing. And at that point, I was like, done. I was just like, no, her in her state right now, I am not supporting reunification.
Mhm,
No, absolutely not. And so that kind of started this whole snowball effect that did not and well for my husband and I either. It was
mhm,
very, very, very hard. Hard. That
mhm,
was way harder than dying. when you're grieving people that are living, I've grieved people that have died, and it's way harder to grieve people for me that are living, because they're on the same planet as you, and they're breathing the same air as you, literally, but yet you're not seeing them and you're not able to hug them, and so it was devastating. And I'm thankful that she has her third one with her, and I think he saved her. And the dad's involved with this one. They're not together or anything, but I think he has saved her. Just being there, being available, holding her accountable.
Mm.
She hasn't slipped, and he's 2.5, almost 3. So I feel like she's finally gets it, and I don't now think, oh, she's got a couple more years to live. I feel like she's on the right path. There's
Yeah.
always hope for people. I never gave up on her. I never really quit talking to her. She quit
Mhm.
talking to me a little bit, because you're not very happy when your mom's fighting
Yeah.
against you getting your
Yeah.
kids back. But at that point, I
Oh,
had to
yeah,
choose the
and
kids.
I've gone through that situation as well, like, very close situation like that, and it's hard to see the kids not with their mom, but when it's for their benefit, it's for their well-being, it's really hard to
Yeah.
make that call, um, but sometimes it's necessary for sure.
Well, and I mean, there's so much to this story that, so I hope I don't confuse by saying, but I almost feel it. I feel an edge that someone needs to hear this right now. It's triggered me. I have a situation in the association with my leadership council that has triggered a couple other relationship issues that I had over the last few years. And then when I was with my friend, I was just telling you in that 3-hour car ride, telling her this story I'd never told her before. And now it's made me go, I need to write that down. It's not my book, and maybe it'll never be published, but it was like when all that was happening with my grandson, it triggered, and I didn't even know it until I started telling her the story. And I went, oh my gosh, that's why it triggered all this grief from, my brother and sister-in-law dying and a grandbaby dying, my mom dying. I like sang at every funeral. I hardly shed a tear. I just like put on my big girl panties. I did all their funeral arrangements and everything. So I feel like when I was grieving this child that's living, I was going through the grief of everybody else at the same time. And so, like, I had all these little triggers happening. So the daughter, while we were going through all this legal stuff during that 2 years of my hell with my grandchild, when my daughter was younger, there's a long story to it, but I was fighting for custody of a child with my ex-husband. He had legally adopted her. He wasn't her biological father. He legally adopted her. She's 15 now. I had decided to let her go live in another state with him, which was my mistake. And I ended up fighting for custody of a daughter that was my biological daughter, not his. He had signed over his rights to her like 4 years before, so he hadn't paid child support or anything on her that whole time. And in another state, and we weren't I was just like, everything stacked against it. It was like, and I'm fighting for
Mhm.
custody of her? I think, what is
Mhm.
wrong with this system? And so I think when it happened now with the grandchild, that it was just like, I mean, I remember coming out of court. I had decided, my parents kept telling me, let her go back, let her go back. And I was just like, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's not. And now I'm finding out here 30 years later, almost, things that happened, that was my
Mhm.
knowing, don't let her go. And my parents were like, you don't have a choice. She's going to either try to commit suicide again, or she's going to run away. What do
Mhm.
you want to call the bluff? So I'm just saying all these patterns were happening. And it's like, then when it happens to the grandchild, I'm just like, I mean, I remember that I am not a mean person. I'm not angry.
Mhm.
I mean, I
Mhm.
get angry, no doubt. Uh, especially when Mama Bear comes out, right? It's
Mhm.
still protecting my children. But I remember I had decided at court to let her stay. And because I let her stay, I lost. And when I lost, they assigned me to pay some of his attorney fees to give him my
Mm.
child, who he was not the biological father for,
Mhm.
and had no rights to her. And I was just like, I remember coming out of that courthouse and I thought, I am saying this on air, I know. I literally thought, I was in so much rage. If I'd
Mhm.
had a gun,
Mhm.
I know that mental
Mhm.
state, I would have shot. Like,
Mhm.
I don't even know how to use the gun.
Yep.
Just saying, like, if I had a knife, I would have
Yeah.
slashed all his tires.
Mama bear
That
instinct, yep.
Because you took
Yep.
my child and you had
Mhm.
no right to her. And, it was just like, oh, but then you get,
Mhm.
you're in the victim mode. And
Mhm.
I was a victim, but do I want to stay there? And so I think the lesson out of all this is, how long do you want to stay in those
Yep.
situations and that mindset and that feeling that
Mhm.
doesn't feel good. If you wanna allow yourself a week or a month or a year, okay. If you wanna allow yourself, "Okay,
Mhm.
in 2 hours, I'm gonna" I know a guy that he'd ask his wife, they'd be in a little tip in the morning, and he'd wait a couple hours, and then he'd, like, go walking in the kitchen, and he'd say, "You know, there's this movie playing about 2 o'clock today. I'm just wondering if we're gonna be okay by then, or are you still gonna be upset?" You know?
Yep.
And he wanted to know his time frame, and I thought,
Mhm.
that's what we need to pre-decide, like, how long am I gonna sit and wallow and play in this
Mhm.
emotion because it's
I
only
love
hurting
that. I
you?
love that, that shift. I see what I did there with your book? That shift of just
Yeah,
not holding it in you and knowing thinking that it's gonna be there permanently. This
yeah,
heavy feeling and just saying, "Okay, I'm gonna give myself and honor that hard part for a
yeah,
week. I am gonna
yes,
honor it for a week and be sad, cry, but then in a week, I wanna see what the lesson was in it. What was I supposed to learn
yeah,
in that moment
yeah.
and in that week?" So that you're not just dismissing it all.
The challenging thing with I noticed in some of my situations were they weren't over. It was gonna happen again. Like, we were dealing with 3 exes at one time because we combined 8 kids, and we had a bunch of teenagers, and they were all over the place, and 2 of our kids ended up marrying each other. So, his 2nd son, my 2nd daughter married each other. That was a whole new set of problems that we hadn't dealt with before, and I'm just saying, it's like sometimes there's not an end, you know? So, like, you have the kids would come back, you're almost reforming them every other weekend when they'd come back because now you gotta deal with our house rules, and it's not like there, and it was just like it's over and over and over. So it's like then your emotions are just constantly on this roller coaster ride. And I think it's still you have to say, okay, but how am I going to deal with it the next time it happens? And I think you could get your triggers so that you're not, I don't want to be at a 10 next time.
Mhm.
Let's be at a 5. And the next time maybe we could be at a 4 and work our way down. So now it bugs me, but
Mhm,
now I'm at a
mhm,
2.
mhm.
And I think predetermining that really it's all a mindset and just shifting how you think about it. And because otherwise, boy, I could be
Oh,
at a
yeah,
10 every
yeah.
time, you know? A
Yeah,
10
no,
doesn't
I
feel
don't
good.
like the 10. I don't like I like it with the joy, but not the hard stuff. So, one of the questions at the heart of this show is, what if life's hardest seasons weren't only something to survive, but something to learn from? Let's walk through one more time the main lessons that you think your journey has taught you so far.
Well, the biggest thing is that I can do hard things.
Mhm.
I knew it
Mhm.
before because I've done it. So maybe I can do harder things. I don't want to keep getting harder things. But again, if I know, okay, that was a lesson, next time something similar comes up, next time, again, I realize, oh, what do I need to learn? Like step back, breathe through it, and just say, look at things differently. Like for me, sometimes when I'm going to make a decision, I've learned I need 24 hours to
Mhm.
think about that, and I'll just say, "Hey, can I get back to you on that?" And maybe I don't give a time frame because maybe it takes me 48 hours to really, and a lot of times the same decision I'm making will be made, but I wanna know if it was an emotional decision and I just made it, just
Mhm.
to have an answer for somebody. Don't let anyone determine your time frame of when something needs to get done. Their urgency doesn't need to be your urgency. And even with text, being in real estate, it's like, man, people texting me early in the morning, late at night. If I'm getting right back on there and texting them back, guess what? I just told
Mhm.
them that was okay. And they can 24/7. Now, if there's emergencies, that's one thing. But I always was like, it would make me crazy if someone sent me a text and it's 8 o'clock at night. There's nothing I can do about it tonight, but I can wait till 8 o'clock the next morning to text them back and say, yeah, I'll get right on that. And it's like, it would make me crazy because that's not who I am. I'm on top of everything and I'm going to, let them know I'm here to serve you.
So,
Mhm.
for anyone that is listening right now in their own version of a hospital bed, in their hard moment where survival just feels like that's the only thing that they can manage right now, what is one thing that you would like
Yeah.
them to hear today?
Wow. I have a lot of things, but you know what? It's screaming at me to say, and it's interesting that this is
Mm.
it, is pray. Like, I know my spiritual experience that I had, I got to see tens and thousands of people. And later I realized, oh, these are all those prayer lists I was on. These are all these people that are praying for me, all these people that have my back. So the power of prayer for yourself, even if you're not someone who prays every day or prays for your meals or whatever, it doesn't matter. Oh, that was so loud when you asked me that. I was like, pray, pray, pray. It was just like, say it. Yeah, I just think you are entitled for inspiration for yourself. I think moms have the inspiration a lot for their kids. I even had it for my
Mhm.
stepkids. It was amazing. And when my husband realized it, he did listen. He realized. He's like, "Okay, if your gut's telling you that, that's what we're going to do." And I was so grateful for that. We all have it. It's just like, so pray to know that you can, but you can do hard things. Like, you can get through it. And there are challenges happening for us for a reason. And so sometimes we don't know the reason. And I think that's when we just pray that things will work out, and we just say, okay, you hear that things happen for a reason. And then people are like, well, this reason sucks. Well, it might, but in a year, you might look back and go, that was the best thing that ever had to me. That worst day ended up changing the trajectory of everywhere and everything I'm
Mhm.
doing now.
Yeah.
You just never know.
I would
We're
add to
faith
that,
then.
pray and trust. Just pray and trust that it means
Mm.
something. Where can people find you, Holly, to learn more about your near-death experience and find your book and everything that you are offering?
Yeah, sure. Well, near death, just put my name in YouTube. You'll see a whole bunch of them. Um, and I have one link I'll share with you. You could just put in the show notes that takes you. It's just a link tree, but it'll take you to all my socials, my email, my books, my website, the International
Mhm.
Association, or Retreat Association.
Wonderful. This has been so great. Thank you, not just for sharing part of your story, but for going back into some of those hard rooms, especially like the hospital and the rooms that you've been in with your daughter. I know that it's going to help someone feel less alone on their journey. Before we go, I always ask my guests what they're grateful for today. What are you grateful for, Holly?
I think I'm just grateful for life. I think it's something to look forward to and make it what we want. It's every day is a clean slate to make what we want. All we have to do is make the decision that it's going to decide that it's going to be great, and it's going to be great.
So, as I sit with this conversation with Holly, what stays with me is this. She was shown in the most literal way possible that love is the assignment, not achievement, not perfection, and not getting it all right. It's love. The way that we show up for each other in the ordinary moments. And she didn't need to almost die for that to be true. She just came back to remind us all of this. So if you're listening right now and you're in a season where survival feels like all that you can do, whether it's your health or family or a life that no longer looks like the one that you planned, I want you to hear this. Surviving is only the beginning, and you don't have to rush the rest of it. Coming back to yourself happens slowly and gently, and one honest breath at a time. If you want a place to keep unpacking this conversation, come and join us in the living room. That's our community over on Substack, where these conversations don't end when the episode does. That's also where you'll find my newsletter, which is just a little pause in your inbox with reflections and reminders that you're part of something bigger. The easiest way in is just to go through my website, tiffanycarson.ca. And I will have a question waiting for you in the living room this week, and it's inspired by Holly's life review. If your life flashed before your eyes today, what's one small, ordinary moment of love that you'd want to see again? Come share yours, and I'll post mine as well. Now, before we go, I want you to take a deep breath with me, a big, deep breath with me, and let all of that hard stuff blow away. And then I want you to go find something that brings you joy and makes you laugh. Until next time, friends, take care.